Sean Payton put some statements out there about Nathaniel Hackett in the Broncos 2022 season, defended his quarterback Russell Wilson, then kind of walked it back some. And Robert Saleh shrugged it off. He said, look, Sean's been in the league, for a while, so he can say whatever the hell he wants. I'm not going to respond to it. Obviously, if you're doing something right, then haters are going to hate. But do you feel like there's possibly some Jets and Broncos beef brewing here because Nathaniel Hackett's there? He just got his hands off Russell Wilson. Sean Payton just gets his hands on Russell Wilson. They play in week 4. You feel like there's possibly some beef kind of brewing here to where we could see a new rivalry in the AFC with some preseason talking?
I'm sure that they will definitely have that as bulletin board material. Both teams will. And they will have that date mark on their calendar in week 4. I'm sure they will. It just adds a little bit of extra fire, right?
Yeah.
Jets and Broncos, like as a prospective rivalry, is a little bit strange. Just a weird matchup that we probably won't see very often.
Right.
But I think this week 4 matchup will be a fun matchup. I think the Jets will win in a landslide, but
really,
I don't believe in the Broncos. I know that Sean Payton's a great coach, and I know you know that.
Yeah,
but
he can be boneheaded at times. But yes, of course.
But I don't listen. Nathaniel Hackett did a terrible job coaching last year, and I 100% understand why the Broncos fired him.
Yeah.
However, there is a point where Russell Wilson was so bad. He was abysmal.
Very bad.
There is a reason why Melvin Gordon was giving him that look on that sideline. We've seen that. And remember how he was just kind of looking at him because he missed that throw in the end zone? He wasn't looking at Nathaniel Hackett like that. It was Russell Wilson who was missing wide open receivers and just not seeing guys down the field they don't have a defender within 15 yards of him. So I think Russell Wilson is on the decline, and that it was very evident last year, and it snowballed even more out of control because Nathaniel Hackett's coaching was also terrible. So that was the reason why the Broncos were that big of a train wreck last year. Maybe Sean Payton comes in and they'll be solid. They'll be a hard team to beat, but I think the Jets are going to be among the NFL's best this year, and I don't think the Broncos will be.
Yeah, I don't think the Broncos will be among the NFL's best. I do think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. I think they'll be competitive in most games than not. And of course, I think Sean Payton coming there and some of the moves he made within the draft, within the offseason free agency, and all the players that he signed. I think it's going to be a nice turnaround. I won't agree that Russ is on the decline. Now, don't get me wrong, he looked horrible last year, and that's probably one of the worst fall-offs we've ever seen. And to get into kind of Sean Payton defending him, like Sean Payton was on the herd talking about how he would dial up all of Russ's best plays if he were to be his coach, this, that, and the third, how much he wanted to coach with them. And so, with him saying all that, he's watched the tape. Like, for Sean Payton to run the type of offense and the type of team he did with the New Orleans Saints over those 10, 15 plus years, and to give them the type of offense like that, and eventually when the defense started to come around under him and Dennis Allen, you had to watch tape. You have to be a student of your craft. You have to devour tape for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and your warm glass of milk before you go to bed. I don't do that. Just kind of throwing it out there, though. Like, you've got to consume the content of football to know. So I would hope that Sean Payton, seeing all the tape that he's seen, understood that Russell Wilson, a good bit of times, was running into pressure that wasn't there, missing wide open receivers, like you said, not making his reads. And while Nathaniel Hackett might not have been the best play caller or game manager like he should have been in terms of a head coach, you don't ever want a head coach to be a game manager, but they need to have those traits, of course, inside their coaching. You would just... You'd like to hope that he actually watched the tape before going out and defending him like that, because he was like one of the worst coaching jobs we've ever seen in NFL history. There's 20 dirty hands here in the front office. And then he's like, Russ isn't falling off that bad. Do you think he's kind of, and of course he's saying what he's supposed to, but do you think he's mistakenly defending Russell Wilson, as you and I both know that, him and Hackett shared the blame last year, and maybe we can even put more on Russ. I don't know. Veteran versus rookie head coach. Your thoughts, though?
No, I don't think that this is something that is wrong by Sean Payton. I think,
me neither.
It's
no wrong.
It's okay, and it's what he needs. It's what he needs for his team to fire up, right?
Yeah.
I think that the Broncos are in complete disarray after last year,
definitely,
and that team morale is below the basement.
Yeah.
It's past the crust of earth, right?
Yep.
So you need to find a way as a coach to lead your guys and light a fire under them to get them fired up, right?
Yeah.
Let them know you believe in them. Let them know that you think your predecessor sucked, and try to light a fire and get them motivated to defend your words, really.
Right. And then he comes out and, I think just today he's in the press conference, with Broncos. They're recording him and everything. And he's like, I needed a bit more restraint. I regret that. Sean Payton's kind of walking it back. I'll say, man, this kind of shocked me because Sean Payton in his years in New Orleans, like I watched player interviews that, like Sean Payton could be a real asshole sometimes. And he could just really like put it out there on the table and be like, look, this is the standard. This is what I'm looking for. Or like, I'll get you off the depth chart and off the roster like that. I mean, there were players out there like Delvin Breaux, Breaux show 40 on Instagram, actually had an interview where he was talking about Sean Payton because he used to play for the Saints. And Sean Payton was, very aggressive at times. He literally, when the Saints went to the NFC Championship and got the no call, he literally walks into the locker room and he literally comes in the locker room with the Super Bowl trophy. And I think it was 500 grand in cash or $1 million in cash. I think they get $1 million bonus if they win the Super Bowl, right? He's like, you guys want this? Win 3 fucking games. Like, and Sean Payton didn't care. The report got out and he didn't walk it back. Sean Payton, I mean, I think he made comments about Russell Wilson's like desk. He's going like, hey, everything they did last year, we're doing the complete opposite. I don't know if you're really like privy to Sean's character over the years, but I guess from what you know, are you shocked that Sean did walk it back after we don't really view it as wrong that he stood up for the team to fire him up like that because it was such a disarray?
I think the reason why he walked it back was because I think a part of
it was a bad PR move.
It was a bad PR move. And I think, you're right. Sean Payton is, he's very blunt about things at times, right?
Yeah.
But I think Sean Payton has respect for his colleagues.
Yeah.
And I think he felt a little bit unsettled inside of him to have ripped Hackett that badly, throw him under the bus. You never want to kind of kick a guy when he's down,
right?
Because you never know
right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But you never know. Hackett might have like an aspiration to be a head coach again one day in the league and whatnot. So I think Sean Payton felt a little bit bad about that.
Right.
But
don't want that bad karma talking all that shit before you even take a snap with Russell Wilson.
Exactly. But he wasn't, I feel like he wasn't trying to throw Hackett under the bus. He was calling a spade at the end of the day.
Exactly. He was just doing it in a Sean Payton style.
Exactly. My favorite part about all of this, though, was Robert Saleh's response.
He was so unfazed.
If you don't have haters, you ain't popping. That was hilarious. I love that kind of attitude from him. And
me too.
And this will all blow over.
Right. Now, one final thing on Sean Payton as he rips Hackett in the Broncos 2022 season. This is episode 32 of the NFL with AJL. Payton says his Broncos are a playoff team, and he'll, quote, be pissed if they don't make it. So kind of double thing here. One, are the Broncos making the playoffs? And two, do you think Sean Payton is maybe putting some unnecessary pressure on himself walking into this year? Even though he walked it back with ripping Hackett, I think he'll still be pissed if they're not a playoff team. And honestly, I will be very shocked if they're not, just based on how I feel about the Broncos this year. Do they make the playoffs? And do you think Payton's putting unnecessary pressure on himself?
No, I don't think he's putting unnecessary pressure on himself. I think Sean Payton has been in this rodeo for many years. He understands how it goes. This is the guy that called a surprise onside kick at halftime in the Super Bowl. I don't think he's
I've got my own feelings about I got my little conspiracy theory on that, but yes, you are.
I don't think he's concerned about saying that his team should make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So, but now whether they will make the playoffs, that's a different question. I think the AFC stacked this year. I think there's 3 playoff teams already in the AFC East. I think there's 2 in that division. They're the AFC West that aren't the Broncos.
Right.
And
AFC North.
Yeah, then you have the AFC North where everyone can make the playoffs.
Yep.
I don't see them as a playoff team this year. Maybe, but you never know. In a conference where everything is going to be so neck and neck.
Yep.
Couple things go your way, you go on a little bit of a win streak in the middle of the year.
Right.
Things might be able to happen. And Sean Payton, in my opinion, if he were to retire today, in 5 years, he would be inducted to the Hall of Fame.
For sure.
So
Absolutely. One of the
he
greatest offensive minds.
exactly. He deserves the respect, and I think he can get them to the playoffs, but I don't think that he will. At
Yeah.
least not this year.
Heard that. I think every division next year outside of the AFC South will have some tears rolling out by the time the playoffs start because the North is loaded, the West is loaded, and the East is loaded. And hell, if the Titans decide to stay healthy and the defense is still there from last year, I'm just saying, bro, it is the Jags to win. But if that little bit of experience from Vrabel and just how he really gets the most out of his guys, Doug Peterson is a Super Bowl winner. I feel like some people forget that. It's going to be very competitive in the AFC. I feel like I'm kind of nitpicking here with Sean, and I know I'm a little biased because he used to be, with the New Orleans Saints, and I know I was going to keep up with him a lot, like from when he said, my heart's not in it, leaves the league for a year, comes back, this, that, and the third. I feel kind of, I don't know. I do feel like I'm nitpicking because, what coach wouldn't be pissed if they had the roster that they did with Sean Payton, said that they were a playoff team. I just, like, he did walk it back, but with him saying those specific comments, knowing how Sean Payton had his own coaching gaffes in New Orleans that I personally think kept us out of deeper playoff runs or even making playoffs at certain times, knowing the mess he's inheriting with Denver, maybe it's similar to New Orleans, but you were walking into more of a franchise that was maybe the laughing stock of the world versus the Broncos. Yes, they've had a losing culture for a little bit, but they have had some of the greatest players and quarterbacks of all time play for them, and just considering how last season went, like here we are, another new coach. Now you're retooling, Russell Wilson still in the second year of ownership. I don't know, man. I do feel like it's a little bit of unnecessary pressure because, like, just go out there and play and show them that you're still the Sean Payton that we knew, right? Because, like, I even remember Sean Payton at one point with the Saints. He was literally getting interviewed about a game that I want to say his own coaching mishap kind of put us out of. And it wasn't like a major one to lose, but of course, like reporters doing their job, they asked him about it. And Sean Payton gets asked a question and just doesn't say anything. And he's literally sitting there like eating his bagel. And I think the reporter was like, did you hear my question? He's like, yeah, I did. He's like, I'm actually going to chew my bagel. And the reporter was like, what kind of bagel is that? And they literally get into a conversation about like going back and forth about this bagel and all. And just to know that Sean Payton can really stand on certain things at that point, but then for him to go back and walk it back, I don't know. It was just a little interesting to me, but hey, new coach, I guess, new team, new system for him to be in. It's going to be very interesting for sure.